Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse podcast. This is episode number 368. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today, we got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
How you doing?
Yeah.
This week on the show, we'll be talking about Bruce McDonald's latest Dreamland. We'll also be going over something we're watching on the watch list and new releases on VOD and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please remember to review us on iTunes if you get a moment. That would be super helpful. Just one bit of housekeeping this week. The Blu-ray giveaway for June is up on the site now. We're going to be giving away a copy of Come and See. This is the Criterion version that's coming out this month. So if you haven't seen the brutal yet incredible movie Come and See by L.M. Klimov, enter for your chance to win. Put a link in the show notes. Did you see that? You've seen that, right?
Oh yeah. That's a rough one.
It's rough, but it is just it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Like it's
pretty damn incredible.
It's really all I have for housekeeping this week. I think we can dive into our review. No Ryan watches a movie. We're trying to figure out. There's been some schedule changes, so we're trying to figure out how we can do the Ryan watches a movie stuff. Hopefully, we'll have that sorted.
I'm back to work.
Yeah, you're back to work.
COVID work.
It seems like you and Ryan are kind of on opposite schedules now, because it seems like he can only. There's only a few days that he can record, so we're gonna try to work it out. One other that actually reminds me of one other quick note. If you can hear some background noise on my end, my AC is still out. It's been out for 3 weeks, so all my windows are currently open. So you may hear some city sounds. I hope I hear some bird.
Want some bird action?
You might hear some seagulls or pigeons. That happens.
Cool. Nice.
Regular birds, no, not so much. Yeah, I'm pretty high up, but you can still hear some city sounds, some various city noises coming through. So I apologize for that, but it's just so hot. It's just brutal in here. With that, I think we can jump into our review. We're talking about Dreamland. I have a synopsis here. On the night of the strangest wedding in cinema history, disagree with that, a grotesque gang boss hires a stone-cold killer to bring him the finger of a fading, drug-addicted jazz legend. As I said at the top of the show, this is directed by Bruce McDonald, stars Juliette Lewis, Stephen McHattie, Henry Rollins. Kevin, we'll start with you. What did you think of Dreamland?
Just a quick question for you. How you said you disagree with that. What part do you disagree with?
I just don't think it was the strangest wedding in cinema history. I mean,
no, it's not.
I can't.
That's a bold statement.
It's fun. I'm trying to think of a stranger wedding, and I can't think of one at this moment. But I'm 100% sure that I've seen stranger weddings. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure too. Also, even just like the time frame of that, like, is incorrect.
Yeah,
like, it's not the night of the wedding that he has to get the thing. Like, that happens well before.
Days before.
Yeah. It's just a very interesting synopsis, as always. Good stuff. I want to make that my job. If that would, I know that job would suck. It would be infuriating. But I feel like you could make a career out of that.
Writing movie synopses? Yeah,
just like it's like legit, concise, but it really encapsulates what the movie is, and they're right. They're like factually accurate.
Yeah, I feel like there's like PR people handle that probably.
Yeah, well, they should stop.
Well, the thing about the IMDb ones, like I know I can read you the official synopsis. Like, obviously, the IMDb one is not the official one. Sometimes they are,
True.
Sometimes they're not. But like a lot of times the ones on IMDb are just user submitted. Now if I pull up the email regarding this, oh wow, okay, it is the official one.
There you go.
So in this case, yes, unfortunately, that is the official synopsis. So there we have it.
Got it. Hmm. So, anyways, Dreamland, Bruce McDonald. This is from a script from Tony Burgess, and the last time they worked on a movie together was Pontypool, which Pontypool, pretty fucking great, pretty incredible, right? So, pretty excited for this. Plus, you have Stephen McHattie in there, and he's playing two roles. He's playing the hitman, but he's also playing the drug addicted jazz legend, the trumpeter. So he's playing both, and they're vastly different characters. So I like that from him. That we got to see like him in two different modes here, and they even have like a different look. Both of which looks like he's on death's, knocking on death's door there. Like, man, he is
gone.
Pray for him. Keep him in your prayers.
He is a gaunt son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, damn. But number one, it's not that strange of a wedding. It's not that strange of a movie either, which I think was the most disappointing thing for me, because it starts out where it kind of like teases this, that it's going to be this very cerebral, bizarre movie. You have the title, you have the Dreamland, he's having visions, he has a doppelganger. No one points out that they look exactly the same. He's got to get the finger from himself. And they keep like kind of teasing and hinting towards this, like, at some point it's going to hop up a level, right?
Yeah.
Or at least you're hoping that it's going to hop up a level, and we're going to be off and running into this just bizarre world, this Dreamland world. But that just never comes to fruition.
No,
it's really disappointing.
It's surprisingly straightforward, and I think one of the things that makes it so sort of jarring that it doesn't go for this really kind of surrealistic tone is because it's entirely set up like a David Lynch film. Like you have this very sort of basic, almost noir setup at the beginning, and as it's progressing, there's like you said, there's these like little hints, there's these little like things here and there that are a little off kilter, a little strange, and so I think just because we're all so familiar with Lynch's filmography and like his style and what he tends to do, where oftentimes Lynch films have a very straightforward surface level setup, and then they go off the rails at some point. And so that's kind of what I was expecting here. I was thinking like, okay, yeah, we have this pretty basic premise, but at some point we're gonna go into crazy, Dreamland territory where things start to get really wacky and surreal. But it doesn't go there. It's all played very straightforward. And I was thinking there's something going on with the fact that you have Steve McHattie playing these two roles, and at one point, like something happens where like, so the whole thing is like this trumpet player, like his fingernail is black on his pinky finger, and at one point the hitman's fingernail turns black too after he gets injured, and I'm like, oh man, there's going to be this like crazy thing where they're the same person, or like they switch bodies or something really out there is going to happen between the two. But yeah, that doesn't really happen.
No, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, it does have that, because also where he points out where he's like, what is it they says how we start off as many and we end up as one. And I was like, okay, I kind of like this idea, where they're going to take it. And then, like you said, his fingernail turns black, like the trumpet player, and you're like, oh, here we go, it's kicking off. Here we go, like something's going on here, but nothing really happens. Which, okay, it's disappointing, but to me, it's fine if, because of Bruce McDonald's other movies, I'm at least hoping like visually it's going to go, up another level. Okay, maybe the narrative just stays where it is, like thematically and everything, and it never really kicks off into the surreal territory or anything along those lines. But I was hoping for at least the visuals to go there. But the visuals don't even go there. Like, I mean, they're pretty straightforward too. There's not a whole lot of experimentation in the visuals.
No, I wasn't impressed with any of the visuals. I thought that the movie looked very, very bland and, dare I say, cheap. Like it looked kind of cheap. Like the visuals, and I mean, I thought that the lighting was okay, and I thought that there were a couple creative transitions, but overall, yeah, I was not very impressed with the visuals at all in this, and I found a lot of it to just be dull. Like there were moments, like certain sequences that lingered on way too long, and it started losing me. One of the issues that I have, and this is just total personal opinion, with movies that deal in the abstract are, I don't see an end point. So a lot of times during a scene that contains abstract thoughts or ideas or visuals, I find them to be like, okay, where are we going here? What is this? And it's funny because this movie, while it really never played in the abstract too much at all, it still contained those sequences where I'm just like, all right, let's go somewhere. Let's see where are we going with this? This is lasting for too long. So it's
unfortunately for you, it only had the worst parts.
Yeah, exactly. Like it didn't do anything. It didn't go into any kind of really crazy surreal territory. So it felt like those long, dull moments led up to nothing. There was like no payoff. Yeah. I mean, the finale I thought was surprising and fun, and it was okay. But at the end of the day, when looking at the whole narrative, I'm just like, all right,
yeah,
there it was. I mean, it turns out to be this pretty straightforward crime thriller that is, I guess, trying to be a little bit bizarre, but it never really felt that bizarre to me. Like, it didn't feel that strange.
And I wonder if that's just because, like, so much of this is now, like, just known, in terms of, like, pedophiles, political, like that's just normal life now.
And I mean, we've seen tons and tons of movies before that attempt to criticize those in power and corruption and all of that stuff, and how evil leaders can be.
This is pretty toothless.
Yeah.
And just kind of basic, elementary, pedophiles are bad. Oh, yeah. Agreed.
You have Juliette Lewis as a countess in Luxembourg, which I thought in and of itself was kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, that is interesting because it brings up 2 points, or 2 things that I enjoyed. That's Luxembourg. More movies should be shot there. And like you said, the finale, which I thought was kind of like a little bit too little too late. But I did like the Stephen McHattie song. I did like his singing.
Me too.
I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That was a surprise.
But I mean, I pretty much agree with you too. There are swaths of this movie that are just dull, unfortunately. It just makes it even worse. Because again, you have that teasing and you think you're going to go somewhere and you don't. And a lot of times you just go to really boring places.
I think what makes it more unfortunate is that you have Stephen McHattie in here playing 2 roles, just crushing it. This guy is so good, and he's an inherently odd character. But I feel like he didn't have enough meat in these roles to really just let him shine. And I mean, I love the dude in pretty much everything he's in, and he does a really incredible job in this movie too. But I think that everything else just kind of brings it down. And you have Henry Rollins in there as Hercules, who's this like mob gangster guy, and he's fine, I guess. But it's like nothing really clicked with me on this one.
No, and it's like there's a lot. Like you could do a bullet point list, right? And you could be like, "Wow, this movie sounds really really bizarre and out there. You know, Henry Rollins is a guy named Hercules that runs a nightclub called Al Qaeda. You know, Thomas McQuarrie is a vampire.
Oh
At
yeah,
the wedding, he's
yeah.
a vampire. Like he's a ridiculous vampire, and he's marrying like a 14-year-old. Juliette Lewis is a countess in Luxembourg. Stephen McHattie plays two characters. You know, like, but none of that actually adds up to anything that bizarre. Like on paper, maybe, but the actual final product, no.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't recommend Dreamland. It's just very, very forgettable. I probably won't remember much of anything of this one by the end of the year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I mean, I really liked Pontypool a lot, and a lot of some of Bruce McDonald's other films I liked as well. Hardcore Logo being one that sticks out. I liked that movie a lot too, and I don't know, this one just didn't work for me.
No, it felt a lot like one of those, you know, straight to DVD.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really feel like a Bruce McDonald movie.
No, not really.
It feels like it could have been directed by anyone. It came out in the 90s, you know, late 90s, early 2000s.
It does.
To DVD.
It definitely feels like an early 2000s movie to me.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right. That's Dreamland. It's on VOD now if you want to check it out, although I really can't recommend it. But let's give it a score. No. I'm sitting at like a 4 out of 10 on this one. Maybe 3.5. 3.5, 4.
I'm going to go with 3.
Not for me. Let's talk about someone we're watching this week. Kevin, I believe it is your turn to start us off.
I watched The Mist from 2007.
Okay.
Frank Darabont.
Yeah.
All right.
Little Thomas Jane action.
Yeah, hell yeah, Thomas Jane's in there. Also Toby Jones. Toby Jones in there. Didn't know that going in, so that was a pleasant surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie, all right, I didn't really know a lot about it going in. I know that they're in a grocery store and the mist comes in, right? And they're trapped. I kind of remember that from the trailers back in 2007, right? So with this movie, my understanding was, or at least what I thought it was going to be, is, you know, the guy comes through the mist and he runs in the store. He's got his nose bleeding. He's like, something's in the mist. There's something out there. And everyone's like, oh my God, they freak out, kind of barricade everything. And I know that there's like this small group of people from the community kind of like lose it and turn on each other. Now, what I was thinking is that they were always going to kind of tease this idea of, is there actually something in the mist? You know what I mean? Like it was going to just keep that as an unknown throughout the movie, maybe till the end. And just, you know, are these people just doing terrible things to each other and there's actually nothing in the mist whatsoever? Or is there actually something in the mist and we don't know what it is? But I was kind of surprised and kind of excited too that there actually is something in the mist. And you get to see it, and it's ridiculous, and it's over the top, which I was not expecting. I did not know that, so it was very shocking to me. And it's just so outlandish, and I ended up loving it because of that. Because it's just the complete opposite of what I was expecting. You know, I thought this would be more of like a cerebral thing where, you know, you just scare people with the mere suggestion of something, and you can affect their behavior, that kind of thing. But no. There's terrible things in the mist. So it's kind of understandable that these people kind of lose their minds. And just the stuff that's in the mist is just fucking awful. Just terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty damn good. I loved it.
There was I don't know if it was like a director's cut, but I know that there was an alternate ending to this one. And I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure there was like a different ending.
The ending to this is pretty bleak.
Yeah.
But it's also just as ridiculous as the rest of the movie. Because it's just like, I don't see it happening at all. Like, there's no way. But okay.
I remember liking The Mist. I remember like being pretty surprised at this one.
If you're looking for a ridiculous horror movie that's not like bad, You know what I mean? Like, it's
Mhm.
not like incompetent filmmaking or anything. That's why you're enjoying yourself. But it's just ridiculousness done well. Then definitely watch The Mist.
I saw You Don't Know Me. This is going to be coming out this week. This is directed by Jeffrey McHale. This is a documentary about Paul Verhoeven's Showgirls, and
Okay.
the fact that when Showgirls came out, it was riddled with controversy, and it was famously panned by critics and did horrible at the box office, and it was a complete bomb. And this movie sort of dissects Showgirls and talks about why why it was panned back then and why it sort of has turned into one of these movies that has a bit of a resurgence, and people have found a new appreciation for it now. If you look at, I mean, a good example is Ken, who is the co-host on our 90s podcast. He loves this movie, and Ken was born in 1999, so he first came to this movie very recently, and he kind of loves it. And we actually reviewed this movie on the 90s podcast. And so I think it's interesting to hear the opinions of somebody who is just coming to this movie for the first time now, as opposed to back then when it first came out in 1995 and everybody was just hating on it. The documentary it's good. It's not like, I mean, they don't talk to Verhoeven, they don't talk to anybody in the cast or crew or anything like that. It's mostly like more so a video essay that they talk to critics and fans and stuff like that. But it's very well produced, and I would recommend checking it out, especially if you're a fan of Paul Verhoeven's films or Showgirls. It's definitely an interesting watch. It gets into sort of Paul Verhoeven's filmography and the backstory of his style, and it also talks about Joe Esterhaus and his movies. And if you haven't seen Showgirls in a long time, also, it will remind you of how ridiculous Showgirls is. I've seen it pretty recently, as I said, for the podcast, but oh my god, it's such a ridiculous movie. And I would recommend seeing it if you haven't. So again, that's You Don't Know Me, and that'll be on VOD as you're listening to this, most likely.
I too watched a documentary. Mine was only 30 minutes long though. From 1982 called Suzanne, Suzanne, directed by Camille Phillips and James Hatch. Now, before I get into the movie, you can see this movie, Suzanne, Suzanne, and other films from Phillips and Hatch on the Criterion Channel, because the Criterion Channel has lifted the paywall for a number of like Black-centric films. So either movies made by Black filmmakers or movies that have, like a central Black cast, or documentaries like Varda's Black Panthers documentary is available to watch for free. So there's a number of titles on the Criterion Channel that you can watch for free. This is one of them, Suzanne, Suzanne. This is a pretty powerful and impactful 30 minutes. So this is just Phillips doing this documentary with her cousin, Suzanne, who is like a recovering junkie, and she talks about like this long history of her father, kind of her father beating her. And so it's interviewing her, but it's also interviewing her mother, because her mother kind of went through the same thing. And it's just this really like frank and direct documentary where there's a scene towards the end where it's the mother in the back and Suzanne in the front, and just their heads, right? And Suzanne's kind of like looking off to the right of the screen, and her mother's looking off to the left. And it's just direct questions, like Suzanne's like, why didn't you ever stop Dad from beating me? Like this, and, those types of questions, like the really direct, difficult questions. And like the camera just stays on them and just like captures these moments. And it's just, you know what I mean? It's just extremely honest and just kind of difficult to watch. Like it's too personal, if you know what I mean. Like you feel like I shouldn't know, like I shouldn't be in their lives, and knowing this, like this should be your own like family personal history type thing. But man, it's a good one. So definitely check it out. I would suggest checking it out.
Especially because all of these movies are free on the Criterion channel. Like you said, no paywalls or anything. So that's Suzanne, available now on the Criterion channel. I saw Becky. This this is directed by Carrie Murnion and Jonathan Milott. This is the one with Kevin James as a neo-Nazi. And Lulu Wilson playing a 13-year-old girl who decides that she's going to kill these neo-Nazis. Very, very simple story. You have it's a home invasion thriller where Kevin James and a bunch of his cronies, he and one other guy break out of prison and they team up with these other neo-Nazi thugs and they break into this house. They're looking for this key, and I guess the house was formerly owned by them or something. Somehow this key is in their house, and they're looking to recover this key, which I guess unlocks buried treasure or some shit. I don't even know. And they break into the house. They try to get the key. They end up killing Lulu Wilson's character's dad, played by Joel McHale. And after she sees her dad get murdered by them, and it's established earlier that her mom had passed away a year prior to cancer, and she just sort of snaps and she realizes, like, look, I have no one else. This is it. I got nothing to lose. I'm gonna fuck these Nazis up, and boy, does she fuck these Nazis up. Oh my God. One of the surprising things about this movie, and I mean, the Kevin James thing, I would call stunt casting. The stunt casting of Kevin James, I already knew that going into it. What I didn't know was the level of gore in this movie is like out of control. Early on, she has the key. Becky has the key, and early on, Kevin James like grabs her, captures her, and she takes the key and stabs him in the eye and rips out his eyeball out of his eye socket. So like his eyeball is just hanging there, and he has to deal with that in a very gruesome way. So that was kind of one of the big surprises, was just how crazy violent this movie is. I mean, this girl messes these Nazis up big time. So, that was kind of fun. But as far as the movie itself goes, there's just not a lot here. I mean, I told you the whole thing. There's really not many surprises. There's no new ideas being presented here. It's just the whole shtick is that it's a crazy 13-year-old girl who ruthlessly murders a group of Nazis. Yeah. Which, at times is fun. At times it's fun. At times it's shocking. But the overall package is just nothing we really haven't seen before. It's pretty average.
Yeah.
Now, as you pointed out to me offline yesterday, these are the guys who did that Bushwick movie, which a lot of people didn't like that movie. I kind of dug it. I thought it was pretty cool. And they also did Cooties, which, again, not a lot of people liked, but I kind of was into that movie too. So Becky is on VOD now, so you can check it out if you'd like. If you want to see Kevin James with a giant swastika tattoo on the back of his head, and at one point he takes off his shirt and he's just loaded with Nazi tattoos like all over his body. He has a full back tattoo. So that's kind of weird.
Wow.
Yeah. And and also you get to see Kevin James torture Joel McHale.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, it's that's a weird one.
There's just so many things going on in 2020.
I know.
It's hard to process everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Just on multiple different levels, like really, really small scale stuff to really important things. Like, it's just a hell of a year.
That it is.
So you remember last show, you were like, hey, Wildlife comes out. And I was like, God, no one wants to see that. Milk Toast is all hell. No.
Okay.
Never.
I looked at your watch list. I see that you saw Wildlife, but in clicking on it, I realized that I also saw Wildlife, and I totally forgot. Oh my god, that's so funny. No, I saw it back in 2018.
Oh wow. You saw this movie when it's fresh out the oven.
Oh my god.
Adam got a slice of Wildlife. Fucking Paul Dano.
Well, the funny thing was, like, last week, both of us were like, not interested in this one. And I had totally forgotten that I actually saw this.
Well, it brings up a good point, though, which is this movie is extremely forgettable. So I'm completely understanding in your current situation of you kind of being shocked to learn that you saw this 2 years ago, because there's not a whole lot that's gonna kind of get stuck in the mind's eye there. This is man. And the interesting thing is, like, at first I was like, from the outset, I was like, okay, I feel this like twinge in me that, like, oh wow, Paul Dano might surprise me. This movie might actually be pretty good. It's 1960s, early days of the 60s, so it's more the 50s. Got the 50s styling. Jake Gyllenhaal, Carey Mulligan, young couple with their son Ed Oxenbould in Montana. They just moved to Montana. Like, Gyllenhaal loses his job, so she starts going out looking for work. The son tries to go out looking for work. Gyllenhaal's not getting anything. He decides to leave to go fight these forest fires, right, for like $1 a day or something like that. And it's a huge blow up because who knows how long he's going to be gone, right? So up until that point, I'm like, this isn't actually that bad. Diego Garcia is the cinematographer, does a fantastic job. The Montana landscape, unbelievable. It's all right. But as soon as Gyllenhaal leaves to go fight these forest fires, Carey Mulligan's character just completely changes. Just like finger snap, whiplash. She's just a complete mess. And she's just like an alcoholic drunk. And she's just like prostituting herself. And she just becomes this like ridiculous, over the top character. And I'm not really a big fan of Carey Mulligan to begin with, and her acting style, because she kind of takes it over the top. So, like, this character being ridiculous and taking this ridiculous turn, this development, and then like her overacting style, it just completely dismantled everything. Just became a joke. Just awful.
It's coming back to
never
me.
recovered.
Like, I'm starting to remember. I'm starting to remember it now. All right, so that's Wildlife. Is that on the Criterion channel, or did they add that, or is it just?
I got it on DVD. I don't think it's on the channel.
Okay.
I don't think it's on there.
We can buy the Blu-ray on the Criterion one. That's out now.
Don't though. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I saw Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s. Now, this is a document. I went on a little bit of a rock doc kick this week.
I don't know if I ever got a text about the ska doc. Maybe I did.
I was not aware of it. It came out last year, but I totally was unaware that it existed. And believe me, you would have been getting a text if I found out about this, because I was a huge fan of the 90s third wave ska movement. I was a huge fan.
Mm-hmm.
Big, unabashed. People were embarrassed that they were into ska music back in the day, but
not you.
No. I'm not ashamed, sir. Not ashamed. This documentary, it looks at the history of ska music, which, for those of you not familiar, it's really funny, because there's a scene in it when I can't remember who. It was a member of the band Real Big Fish. He goes on the streets in New York and he asks people, like, on the street if they're familiar with ska music, and almost everybody he interviews is not familiar with it at all. Like, they never even heard of it, which I thought was kind of surprising. But it goes through the history of ska music, and if you're not familiar, ska music is actually it predates reggae. reggae was actually evolved from ska music, and then after it came to the United States and it sort of meshed with punk music, and it turned into the third wave ska movement is the blending of traditional ska and punk music, and it chronicles that history, that timeline, and then there's a shitload of interviews with bands during this time, and it also sort of chronicles the downfall of ska music in the 90s and what happened after, like so many other music genres, it basically became very corporate, and you started seeing it in movies all over the place and in commercials, and the bubble burst essentially. And there's interviews with a lot of the bands that I grew up with that I really loved, like Rancid, and maybe some of the bands that I wasn't a huge fan of, but I understand were hugely influential to the genre, like Mighty Mighty Bosstones, No Doubt, Sublime, Goldfinger, The Specials, Less Than Jake, like pretty much all the big influential bands. And I really enjoyed the documentary. There's these really great animated sequences in it that are very, very high quality animation, and then also it's got this kind of upbeat, sort of fun vibe to it, where it sort of complements the genre itself. And I really appreciated that, where they were going for this sort of light, comical look at the history of the genre, and specifically the third wave in the 90s. So if you were into that kind of music, or if you're into it now, I would definitely recommend checking out Pick It Up, Ska in the 90s.
All right.
I think we need more ska. I think ska is due for a comeback. We're in, I as I understand it, we're in kind of the fourth wave right now, but it hasn't really blown up yet. I think it's still sort of in the underground, and I think that we're due for a ska revival, because if you look at the third wave came towards the tail end of the grunge movement, where everybody was just kind of sick and tired of being depressed. And then ska came around and got people, out of their chairs and dancing and had a more positive vibe. And I think we're due for that. The only other, the other rock docs I watched, one was called A Fat Wreck, which is a documentary about Fat Records. If you're not familiar with Fat Records, they were another big record label. They were an indie record label that came around in the late 80s or early 90s, founded by Fat Mike of NoFX. And if you were into the kind of pop punk, skate punk style of the 90s and into the early 2000s, you're probably familiar with some of the bands on Fat Records. It was fine on like a sort of a nostalgic level to revisit some of these bands that I haven't really listened to in a long time and celebrate that. And I was a big fan of Fat Records. Almost everybody on Fat Records back in the day, like Propagandhi and Lagwagon, and obviously NoFX, No Use for a Name, and bands like that. But this movie feels like it's just a big ad for Fat Records. Like, it doesn't feel very hard hitting at all. They try to talk about some of the controversies that came about, but for the most part, it's just kind of a celebration of the record label and feels like just kind of an infomercial. So I think if you're looking to just reminisce about these bands, it's fine. But if you're looking for like a hard-hitting documentary that explores the record industry and blah blah blah, this is not it. This is just looks at Fat Records, where it came from, its heyday in the early 2000s, late 90s, and then sort of where it is now. I mean, it's still around. They're still releasing albums and stuff on there, but they're just a lot smaller. They sort of shrunk back down to the size that they started at. So, yeah. Anyway, it's called A Fat Wreck. That's on Amazon Prime, by the way. You can watch it on there if you're a Prime member. And then finally, I'll mention one final rock doc that I watched called Finding Joseph I, the the HR from Bad Brains documentary. This is a look at the lead singer of Bad Brains, and goes through. It's a pretty standard documentary. One thing I will say, it is very well produced. It looks really good. This is actually executive produced by Jay Moore, of all people, and he's in it too.
Really?
Yeah. So it goes through the history of the lead singer of Bad Brains, and it goes through his career and his various mental ailments that occurred, and sort of what happened to his career and what happened to him as a person, and where he is now and what he's doing now. It's something of a bittersweet documentary. I mean, if you're familiar with Bad Brains or any of HR's like side projects that he did over the years, I mean, he was in various like reggae bands and stuff like that too. And I mean, he's an extremely talented singer and songwriter, and I mean, he's still putting out albums and stuff, but he was dealing with a lot of like mental health issues and was homeless for a long time, and nobody could find him, and he was like missing shows and stuff like that, and it seemed like he was really struggling for a long time, and fortunately it seems like he's on the right track now, and he's, as I said, still putting out music and all that. So I would recommend, if you're a fan of Bad Brains or any of the other various projects that HR Paul Hudson has been involved with, I would say check it out. This came out in 2017, by the way.
Okay. All right.
It's also on Amazon Prime. You know, what led me down this path was that on Amazon Prime, it shows you like what other viewers watched. And after I watched the ska documentary, I was like, oh, okay, let's dive in. Let's take a deep dive into this. See where we're going here.
I like how you completely fuck your algorithm for like the rest of your life. It's just nothing. Like every time you get on Amazon now, it's just nothing but rock docs.
That's okay. I like rock docs.
There's a very specific kind. Too.
Yeah, I mean the funny thing is, so it shows you like, I don't know, 8 to 10, and I saw almost all of them already. Like like there was one of the Decline of Western Civilization documentaries on there. There was this there was several other documentaries that focused on like punk bands and stuff, which I've seen most of those. There was the Wesley Willis documentary on there, which I've seen.
Is there a Reliant K documentary?
No, not a Reliant K documentary.
Still one of my favorite moments of my life.
Although there were like the realization that Reliant K was a Christian rock band. And we were listening to it in your car, and it's like, wait a minute.
I know exactly where it was too. I know exactly where it was. It was right next to the York Galleria Mall.
Yep.
We were almost just to the entrance where you turn right to go to the York Galleria Mall and to Target and everything. And we did the whole, the movie thing where we both looked at each other. We both turned our heads to each other, and we're just like, wait a second. And then we even rewound it a little bit.
Well, this is
what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, this is back in the day when you couldn't just listen to whatever music you wanted on the internet, and I was blind buying a lot of CDs back then. It happens.
Yeah, sometimes you score, and sometimes you make some bad purchases.
I mean, like I found a lot of really great bands over the years, but I found a lot of really bad ones too.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it should be a part of like the parental warning sticker. Like, you should have to tell me if you're singing about Jesus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't have to figure that out by surprise.
Yeah.
Like, I should be told up front.
I remember being disappointed. There's a lot of those like punk bands that sort of straddle that line. Like I remember MXPX used to, they were sort of straddling that Christian rock line. And I remember being disappointed with that. And there was the OC Supertones also, which was a ska band. They're actually in that ska documentary. And so is MXPX, actually. Or maybe he's in the Bad Brains one, but you just
they're all blending together for you.
Yeah. Well, I watched them like back to back. So, all right, let's take a look at what we have on VOD this week. Coming out on Tuesday, June 9th, we have You Don't Nomi, Born in Evan, Return to Hardwick, Sea Drift, and then on the 12th we have Artemis Fowl. That's going to be on Disney Plus. If you remember, that was originally slated for theaters. That was going to be coming out on May 29th. But
yeah,
that's they moved it to Disney Plus because of COVID. Aviva, that's going to be a virtual theatrical release. The King of Staten Island, I believe that was also meant for theaters, but that's going to be on VOD now.
Wow.
Early reviews for that came out, and it's looking pretty good. I think it has an 81% or something on Rotten Tomatoes. We got Hill of Freedom. This is a virtual theatrical release as well. Defy Bloods. This is the new Spike Lee film.
Yes.
That's going to be on Netflix. Obviously, that'll be what we're covering next week.
Yes.
I'm also interested in The King of Staten Island. I know you're not a big fan of Pete Davidson, but I'm curious about that one.
We'll see. I mean, I'll shit on Pete Davidson. I can do that,
Well, maybe this movie will just turn you around on him.
It could very well be. Who knows? It's topsy-turvy year. Mm-hmm. Who knows what's going to happen? Yeah. I could end up becoming like a huge Pete Davidson fan.
You become his number one fan. Number one Pete Davidson fan. We also have The Departure, and we have Exit Plan. This is starring Nikolaj Coster-Waldau. We have Darkness Falls. We have Morona's Fantastic Tale. It's an animated film. Looks interesting. Got a little dog, little street dog.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. An optimistic stray dog named Morona, as she looks back on the human companions she has loved throughout her life.
Wow.
Sounds like it might be something I'm into.
Oh man, looks fantastic.
We have Infamous, and that's about it for VOD. That's a lot of stuff coming out this week.
Yeah, it is.
A whole lot of stuff. Let's see what we have on Blu-ray. We got The Hunt. This is one I would recommend. Maybe not for purchase, but just like a VOD rental or whatever. Looks like there's a film noir box set that's coming out. Film Noir: The Dark Side of Cinema 3. Looks like it only contains 3 movies, which is kind of lame. Abandoned, The Lady Gambles, and The Sleeping City. You know what this looks like? It almost looks like one of those like really cheap box sets that they would sell at Walgreens. That's what it looks like. Let's see. Brian's Song from 1971. We Summon the Darkness from earlier this year. Think Like a Dog, starring Josh Duhamel and Megan Fox.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The Dinner Party, and that's pretty much it. Not a whole lot going on with the Blu-rays. What about Criterion's?
Oh, we got one. That's An Unmarried Woman from Paul Mazursky, 1978. Career-defining role from Jill Claiborne. She was nominated for an Oscar.
Nice.
Got some new interviews and whatnot in there.
Nice. Check that out.
Check it out.
Cool. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @filmpulsenet and @filmpulsekevin. And if you have a minute, consider giving us a review on your podcast platform of choice. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.